Hello. I I hope you all are having a lovely evening. I want you all not to be mad at me for having to admonish Mr. De Niro. The reason, for one example, is in relationship to needs to defend extreme Islam as well, which is for the defense of the surface values of the Constitution and of exploited underlying finite bodies of value and of finite lies being actively hidden and how and exploited. The methods of terror with linguistic fields we lost to in the American Revolution. There are proofs. It takes. So now, I want to first, in other words, understand value is being used as a scientific term here. This is not what the Quran says. This is in relationship to what revealed English, how the Quran, how Islam helped preserve um, algebraic consciousness. We're going to call this. So, for example, that's a lowercase I between two. These are the ancient snowmen really used to teach how the sciences are juxtaposed. The capital value letters, that capital I, that's the same thing as a plus. Now, I didn't read this, but this is demonstrable. I'm going to demonstrate there are many proofs. In other words, each letter of the English language spells out a word, and each word spells out a sentence. I'm going to show you how. Ancient revelations were criminally re-engineered. Energize God's Omega. Ego. Don't let go. Don't stay the guys. Realize, religion, train. We need you try this trial tribes. On hand, the value system leaves, forsaken, exploited. The voice is what we well understand opinionators' methods of not everyone realizing how many lies, how many methods to evidence fabrication tied to what really is tied to all kinds of crimes that people can't believe have been going on through our areas commonly through time, blamed on human nature, but not really human. In other words, first in relationship to other natures of organized crime, would progress from original proofs of them with colonizations, terror laws. For this, to all areas. That's where American history begins. Untold, let forced illusions, forced passions in relationship to names and physical delusions and lies. There was the great terror at the time with the Boston Tea Party. There was counter extortions to understand, and it was evidence fabrication methods, hurt conviction natures. Only let realize by scientists for this. It's insane to blame it on the human natural, not methodically, criminally persuaded and captive, intellectually fields, linguistic fields, in other words. The human nature value system was criminally re-engineered since ancient times. So I is a value needed to describe the difference between how we know when we're just positive value to the species, which we're not even that, but when we're just positive to the body of the species, or not all the way around. That's why we're greater nature too. We're Earth. Space value has one positive identity that's it's diffusing itself as a progressive value through temporary value nature. So it is before, it is with, and it is as a progression, as a progressive value to itself, and or as a relationship to the self, the selves its cause, as our identities. We're not stayed as correlative to all the same positive all the way. In other words, The nature of positive is unchanging beyond us. That's all the way to the right to left, with the plus. This is how this works. And peripherally too, and vertically, left to right, it's also unchanging beyond our control. And bottom up, unchanging positive is a bottom up nature. That's where evolution comes from. Exploited areas. But business can't make these distinctions because business isn't working with truths. And it's not just because business isn't working with truths, because they would be revealed. It is methods that have voice contained to treatments only let realize self-defense natures of logic relying on vested this way in relationship to what's really steering public opinions. Too, we have to watch out on social media sites. They'll understand the nature. In other words, for example, even generals in relationship to the ISIS narratives, they know more than us about the logistics of our enemies in foreign positions in relationship to math. But using correlation, this is why one of the reasons why they can't end the conflicts in the nature of complex litigation, relationships with linguistic fields again, with treatments of facts, because that relates to our nation's homelands, the way we are when terror is in relationship to our leaders that are in defense of us too, but that's got nothing to do with what's peripherally at the same time was before this. You having had criminally re-engineered education to only let legal natures realize as ours to it, and not realize per its sophistication in relationship to us. The bottom up it comes, especially to most exploited areas, is right exactly where we begin. We're in relationship to wherever the water is underground. They always put the water underground. We have it, thank God. And other nations don't have it too, because there are even proofs. So I forgot. The point is extreme Islam is that perception is a radical. So if you take a position against a religion, not only are you an inward Trojan horse in linguistic fields, but those fields are already tied to already invested, exploited areas that of forsaken losses in the American Revolution. And that's only being blamed on lies and on delusions of relationship to blind defenses for political narratives and chasing for positions with that, only let realized ignoring all that in relationship to isolated treatments of everything. So, in other words, that's not a finite truth. And not only is it a truth, it's a sabotage to scientific reception of the religions, and with the nature of science is forcing them delusional, to delusion propagate, with incapable and with strategically breached and exploit and leveraged to maintain this way, invested to maintain this way, and affected needing to insidiously further this way per everyone's means not realized. That's why we have negative value nature progressions on our courts in mass evidence fabrications with it, because everyone is used to not be able to understand. In other words, they've been only realized trained to attach lies and delusions to real truths, to the causes that they're with the same people being judged. That's how colonization started. Her methods to force this only let realized. Her conviction natures to all areas, being blamed on other lies and delusions, logic natures with linguistics, only capable of blaming it on people, trying to herd it out of humanity, bringing it further, because no one's dealing with, everyone's not using correlation. These are natures of organized crime exactly tied to these narratives every day with the foreign groups, and with the voting questions, and with them telling us not to talk about it, and with it sabotaging what the scientists must demonstrate, to be honest, and with them not doing that, as measured tool evidence fabrication natures that are self-defense natures of that, and of the reactions to then that used for other more complicated evidence fabrication terror methods that are really demonstrably behind our problems to all areas. So, but once we define that we are positive value to ourselves, to both sexes, and to the entire species, three ways, because the Trinity is a demonstration to us always. So then why is what's bigger than us is the Trinity too. Scientists can't demonstrate this unless they're working together. Unless we have to understand how the sciences were obfuscated in ancient times. We have to understand how criminal insidiousness narratives, caused by criminal enterprises, how they were even glorified, and even still forced glorified, not realizing the implications with that. I'm not even a lawyer. I'm not even police form. I'm not a criminal. So, in other words, these are the ancient snowmen. And in other words, these are used to teach how the sciences were combined together, left to right. But in other words, if you could define what is positive always, then you know what is actually the truth, and you can remove all from that. See, but when we have scientists teaching everybody to tell lies, and with that invested in that way already, this is a negative value nature progression. So, for example, one can't even defend the Constitution because they're taking fronts. They're teaching it connects to very murderous nature with opinion nature with extreme Islam, radical Islam, that they don't understand. Not only do they don't understand it, they have in other words, it's not against the military. Who really failed them is the same as what I'm trying to say, is the sciences, the litigation natures, our agencies. And then they attach me to fake conversations about them too. I never had conversations with them about. They put fake things in databases. These are jerks, respected guys, because they have everybody as defending themselves as evidence fabrication natures, even in relationship to little things. Like you make you leave a whole debate teaching kids that's how you debate. That's the debate about the sanctions. The presidents couldn't even have it because no one has the capacity to be. It is also in relationship to legal nature advices with the media in relation to database stacking, natures of organized crime we've yet addressed, because we're not having facts that addressed, and we have branches motivated, affected, needing to cover up offensive roles with database stacking, even interbranch. In other words, in relation to, at the same time to this, in relation to there's all kinds of things going on at once. When you have compromised legal natures, which our nations were forced to only let realized. So, they tell them things, training to indifferences. State indifferences are the most vile, the most dangerous things. Even worse than federal indifferences, because the federal ones, the only reason they're bad is because the top directors, they're breached, because they were only let realize breach. Because the sciences, they put physical delusion. That's why everyone puts math. Because now we're talking about, even if you master that, right? It is in relation to geopolitical phenomena with hundreds of nations sharing forced market positions and things like oil involved with it. Uh, needs to keep the home rates. That's nuts. The system playing out. That's what Mitt Romney said. Nothing against Obama. He said, what starts broke ends broke. I mean, what stays broke. But broke is not. In other words, that's what it is. They broke the environment. They denatured it. The Native American landscape. They denatured it. There are even proofs that they made the Native Americans assigned to agreements with natures of. In other words, they don't have linguistic freedom because of the natures of forced shared markets positions. Even beyond proofs, just because of the nature of defending casinos. In other words, historically, too, with the Mashantucket Native Pequot Native Museum, the oldest in the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Museum, the oldest Native American museum in America. How could they have survived in tents? Instead, they were underground. That's what those terror agencies that had forced colonization's terror laws. They also forced us into forced shared policing positions. So that would have forced them into, so it's demonstrably very, very plausible that would have forced them into not having to hide the underground positions for logistical reasons. And see, that's why they have everyone only realized, not capable of realizing the nations to the nature where nuclear bombs aren't even, Donald Trump wants to nuke up. You know what I'm saying? This is the wrong way. In other words, we have all we need, man. If you, we won't even talk about that, anyways. Forget it. See, you start going that's not ego. That's ego fed by lies and delusions only let realized enter science. And by social things. When you're on the media, if you have the media, for example, doing social things and testing like that with the police, at the same time, this is being tied to systemic evidence fabrication methods, sustained to all areas, juxtaposed with the narratives being put in the databases. And they're already, and this is even the relationship to the communications with the court between the people coming in. In other words, they're not really understanding what's going on here. And they're being forced to push people, only realized the self-defense, the predatory roles with evidence is in relationship to what they don't understand. So we have shifting narratives, but that's with, in other words, with evidence sequence too. In other words, people forgetting stuff and like that. In other words, we have the database stacking, but it's being caused by our top legal natures roles with these people through time and methods of evidence fabrication, facilitating insurances that they're going to have people to back up needs to hide related recorded threats and natures of child abuse. I've been actively asking for response to. See, but they have, everyone has top-down evidence fabrication natures. So if you're not talking about, you're not actively being attacked, even though there's a whole bunch of crimes and confessions, body dumping things, and related to it. That's why I'm on in the public now too. They come to my house with no warrant, threaten me with the Scalora family. I never had a conversation with Sonny Scalora in my life. He used to slander me, try to get me arrested a few times, and the only time I've seen him in my life, one time I was in a car with him by accident, and I was in a relationship to a person who I didn't even go to my school, made confessions about, and let me do a video project on him with roles with gang stuff with police. and selling drugs with hospital clerks and bad stuff. So that's how, in other words, I don't know these people. The only reason they did what they did, they sequenced people coming with confessions to me when I was growing up. And then, so you don't even know the people, and they're pretending they know you. Then they get trapped and needing to cover over life progressions. So people tied to them, but you never even know, you don't even know their names. They start coming, online and things like that. They don't follow the laws. Online is worse to slander someone, admit to spreading rumors that were admitted to in the court too, with fabricated evidence fabrication, and then used to put people in jail. And in relationship to reported in the media, related and further demonstrable child abuse acts and natures of it, because it's more systemic. And two, related to the policing of these, all kinds of policing natures, even with like this bad stuff. So I mean, the court switch names too. They don't put it on paper. They don't know the guy's name. So the thing is about, need to talk about finite truths. In other words, now we're talking nonsense for an hour because we're talking lies. They're starting fights to keep that going. That's with a terror method that has other fronts more insidious to all areas. In other words, to start a fight with Islam. Well, that's exactly why the surface value of the Constitution has religion as to defend that, and free speech, which is not let with that. The same way free speech wasn't let with Native American, and still isn't let with Native American rights that you could demonstrate are actively, consciously exploited in relationship to victims of colonization's terror laws, human rights, people. That's why they put color into the law. For linguistic, these are linguistic fields we fell against, tactics that were linguistic to stay linguistic. So they want us to fact treat incapable of facts treatments, because now we're incapable of not being victim to offensive interbranch roles with needs to cover up live progressions and using courts as weapons murderously. That's what happens when you tell live progressions in these contexts. You end your career with the kind of lies you have to, because investigations come by they don't understand. And in other words, and people need to explain that they're trying to be step on them, and they, even though they have, we need to quash it right through the that's why they took off first they took off forget that, it's the policing thing with the internet. But in other words, extreme Islam is a radical, perception is a radical. A radical, what's that mean? Correlation between positive and negative value, what is positive and what is not. We have psychology's only obfuscating this, because what is not positive is still justifying itself in need to lie. It has a method with it. That's what colonization was not. There's not a simple thing. It's a simple thing, but it's with simple things connected that aren't being connected because of complex delusions and lies being forced with evidence fabrication natures, trying to keep these progressions going on us with debates and with facts treatments. That's the problem. If you can't have real law, it doesn't matter who's the president. You know what I'm saying? And to have real law, you don't make it about the president. You have to understand how the presidents have only been led to realize to breach executive bodies, and how. Because that was all that I realized by this geopolitical sciences only really realized how categorically everyone would stay to areas first and per methods. That's why we're in these little denatured boxes. That they had terror laws that before they had cars, they couldn't even build any bigger than this. And we're still like this in Oz. And then the top-down voices. They say, well, they say it's overpopulation, and they make sick things happen to make things just progress, blamed on other things, because it was to keep facts treatments perpetually forsaken. That's why they will go for prejudice, because they're obfuscating what it really is. They need to obfuscate because they can't defend the only logic, the only psychology let self-defended, let trained, self-defeating, breaching logic. That's what. It's not just divisions. It's not just states' differences with federal government. It's how. No, see now. So the important thing is to be able to defend what we have forsaken and is not yet defended. To see the means, and they aren't. You can't see them through business. You have to see them through the people who need the voice the most, not the top-down business that need the most. Except for the food, that's exception. That's exception. And the farmers, and because we're going to change the whole landscape. We have to know the bedrock, all the waters they put underground. Can't have all the fish to take extinct. They take everything extinct. New England, unless it's farm raised from one little fish. That's to keep it knocked out, gone a little more. That's not just natural negative value nature progressions. That was plotted before everyone was born here. This place was here. This pathology set, and it wasn't prejudice that did it. These prejudice is the effect wanted by it, needed by it too, needed by it for guys needing to use that to block the finite. So can't even, forced to make convictions about generals in people's minds. First, blind faith in war bodies instead of correlation. Business is not free, is not stable, it knows nothing about stability. It's only with physical delusions calling stability what is in relationship to war, which is complete and nuts. But only let train realized indifferences, tactical to what was only let realized, self-defense natures, relying upon the devil, the proverbial devil, an organized crime method. I am not a lawyer, I'm not a police form, I'm not a criminal. So it's common sense we have to defend. That's not a fact. Islam. Then you hint. What are you saying? There's no such thing as you say you believe in whatever religion. You don't believe in extreme. That there's unchanging positive. There's proof that there's positive beyond our control. There's a nature of positive beyond our control. And there's a nature of positive that is in our control. The nature of positive that is in our control is a radical. That means it's a correlation nature. That's why with facts treatments too with the women, they're for themselves. The men and the women. It gets grouped. And interests claim what women's rights are, what men's rights are, to all areas. Relationship to business interests, relationship to natures of uncharged crime or the child abuse, with our policing, with intercampuses through time, with databases. And that's really connected to these shootings, demonstrably. These evidence values, it demonstrably is because they're murderous. So when with see no response. See, with the no response is connected to because if someone responds, and that's why the laws are there. If someone responds, then they can't pretend they didn't realize things and forget things. That's why they have laws for this. But CCSU, with other police departments involved with related, all kinds of confessions from people. I'm not able to talk. They keep out of me to fake police reports. They admitted to it. Then they made me come back to the court 5 times, 6 times. They didn't let us talk to anyone one time. They wouldn't answer the first question after they admitted that there were fabricated police reports. One of them had said I was in a hospital I was never in. I believe it was a detective Sumuda who said that. They weren't even all from CCSU. And then there was one with the police transport that he was already tied, McGee. He was already tied, that name was already tied to 2 other officers that used that name in relationship to related evidence fabrications. 2 were tying me to fake conversations about 9/11, and they forged doctors' names about that. I tried to report stuff about untimely deaths and other confessions being made to be by related people with the drugs and stuff like that, with the systems people and with the healthcare people in the area tied to that. I didn't get involved with those people. Those people, I didn't even, they would have been my grade. I didn't even have class with them over here and stuff like that. I don't even know what's going on with that. I'll tell you one thing. That then this guy, the guy who made the untimely death with the drugs and his wife confession, he brought up a school to me. And this is with a guy that used 2 names on my answer machine in relationship to threats to my kid. I don't have any kids, but threats to kids that I know. I'll just say it like that. And threats to my kids. They say it like that. In other words, then they're playing linguistic games where they want to have conversations with me, and they keep attaching me to fake conversations. I just need these facts addressed. I just need these crimes addressed, because there's related untimely death of 2 Faenzas with related confessions with a Gill family and with others, about Club Blue and his neighbors, and with other recorded crimes connected to them. And 2, in other words, how they were used for related evidence fabrications, pretending 9/11 witnesses into conversations about cases in the context, and about people in the context, and about other categorically needed lies by them. They just attached me to fake conversations, people that I never even had conversations with at all. I call you all, but no one responds because we don't have the service people. See, this is the problem, where the service people are good, but the voice, reality needs to address the service. Right here, we have no service, and why and how. It's in relationship to nature's breaching methods, or organized crime methods, evidence fabrication methods that we have to understand with founding, with colonization. What are you going to blame it on then? Prejudice? That's exactly what it needs. That's exactly what it needs. That's what forsakes the finite. That's what left our campuses wrong along. Forget these streets, they say. Inherent to consciousness, all look away. Business has not means, nor time. Think, when will it have time? Those are forsaken rights. People, because they exploited their souls too long. They can't let the bottom up grow. You have to exploit it because everyone else is already exploiting it. So let's just lock down the logistics and do it so no one has to complain that way. We have a lot of people. We have a lot of systemic problems with the law because we can't have positive, what is unpaid changing, positive and true defended. We have lies and delusions defended. We have evidence fabrication, nature's only let a voice. And that's connected to the problems with our campuses. They entertain delusions and guises. Whereas political, do the job, theater. That's why I'm saying this is Campus Marcius. When we play with cartoons, no card game. This revolution Lord never taught you. Lies and fronts. This is just, we seek alone with truth to reveal. In other words, that's why they don't understand. That's why they can't stop the terror groups with their modern narratives, because they have lies and delusions attached to their narratives about the ones here and about the uses for them for evidence fabrications here. They could have all kinds of investigations go on about all kinds of complex things, but needs to tell the lies for that. At the same time, having all kinds of needs for lies for evidence fabrication, they just pretending to be sociology studies and things like this. These are with the sick natures with these schools through times. Then they have these women's groups leaning on predatory litigation natures, predatory to truth into actual legal nature, complete legal nature, which is unchanging positive, is not let defended in one nation. Evidence fabrication natures. They have both candidates extorted and incapable per who they're forced to work with, no matter who goes there, incapable of defending the law, forced to entertain it with punk grammar school treatments. And forget about it, there's never been a woman safe in this country. That's why they didn't have right to vote in the 20th century. But getting angry is not going to do anything unless it's focused for the finite, to free real defense of rights of our schools from natures of organized crime with healthcare too. They have no rights. They have no rights for what they should think. That's why we inherited legal nature's breach of morality, forcing that law, not just in relationship to colonization's terror laws, but in relationship to explanations of them that are pathologically exploited, the effects of them not being taught right. It's a very important thing. That's logistics. The rest of physics is garbage. The logistics is knowing the difference between what is unchanging positive and what is not. And if you know what is unchanging positive when you talk about these internation terror groups, two, multi-front with this nation against the Quran, against the surface value of the Constitution, both sides, because they're not letting the sequence nature and the nature of the Quran address complex litigation. They're letting it address it. They're letting it address it the way that says it doesn't know. Because they're exploiting the education. Interscience is exploiting these religions with predatory industry positions with them. That's what the problem is. And then the self-defense natures of the justifications of that.